guys, Neil the Barbarian Dad, doing a series of videos of deer stuff, right? And today I want to focus in on the second most important piece of equipment that I have in my deer gear. And other than my rifle, which is my killing tool, right? I love to bow hunt. I haven't done it in some years. Just timing. What I don't like is sitting out when it's hot with my bow and getting eaten by mosquitoes, getting a bunch of ticks on me, and sweating my butt off and not seeing deer. That happens a lot when I bow hunt. I have some cool deer hunting spots, but I don't get a chance to see a whole lot of deer up close. I see some of them. I have more chance with my rifle. Muzzle loading's cool, but a lot of times, muzzle loader, the powder doesn't go off, all that kind of stuff. It's kind of a pain. I like the old-fashioned weapons, but man, I'm trying to put meat on my table, and so what I really want to do is have the best chance, and the best chance is my rifle, right? So that's just that little spiel out of the way. Other stuff's fun. It's honey, and you're doing all the good stuff, and you're super manly and all that other kind of crap. But my rifle puts meat on my table, and I love it. So, well, let's talk about the deer grunt. Okay, first off, this is the Primos Grunt Wheeze, and I've had two of them. I don't even know if they make this sucker anymore. It really doesn't matter if you have my grunt call or another one, okay? Most of them are the same. Most of them are going to break apart into a couple pieces. Most of them have a reed inside of them like that. You can kind of see it with a little rubber dealie right there, and you can move it up, and it's got different. You're not going to be able to see it in this lighting, unfortunately. Maybe I can turn that on. There we go. You can see the little notches, and they have little words or little letters on them like top buck, mature buck, young doe, doe grunt, doe bleat, and an estrus bleat. I don't know, man. I have mine on mature buck. You can control the cadence. You can make yourself sound like a younger buck, a more mature buck, with how deep you blow and how loud you blow. So that's one thing. So you've got the grunt, main grunt call, and up here you have the wheeze spot. Some calls have this, some don't. Let's talk about the wheeze first. This is a blowing sound. If you've watched my other videos about deer reactions, this is a call that you can use to make deer think that you're another deer. So if a deer spots you and busts you, sees you walking through the woods, hears you walking through the woods, so it's got 2 out of the 3, right? And usually 2 out of 3 is enough to run away from you, right? What are the 3? The 3 are they see you, they smell you, and they hear you, okay? Usually, if they see you, they won't necessarily run away, okay? They may question you and be like, what the heck's that? But they don't always, they usually won't run away. If they smell you, they may be curious and they're on alert, but they won't run away. If they hear you, they may, again, be on alert, but they won't run away. But if they smell you and hear you, they're gone, typically. If they see you and smell you, they will be gone. If they hear you and see you, they will be gone. Any combination of those 3, they're typically gone or are heading on their way out pretty quickly. If they do one of the other 3, they're very interested in you. Okay? So let's say that you're walking into your deer stand and a deer has heard you, they're on alert, you don't even know they're there, and they blow at you. And you're like, and it's really loud. That's not even loud enough. It's kind of scary sometimes, like especially if you're like new to this and it's dark, and you're like, what in the crap was that, right? It's really, really loud. It'll echo through the woods. It's kind of cool. So if a deer does that to you, immediately you can blow right back at them. Okay? I like to freeze. I like to kind of pull back and give them some cover because clearly they've done one of the 3, and it's usually that they've seen me moving and they've heard me moving, right? And so what I'll do is I'll go step back and I'll blow at them. Sometimes, a lot of times, that's enough to bring in a curious doe, and I'll get a shot on her. Sometimes not, but a lot of times that will work for me. If you don't have this little piece right there to do the wheeze on you, I do it with my mouth all the time. You can do that, and it will have the same effect. I've brought them up to me. I've had them in my deer stand, and they've seen me, and they've blown at me, and I've blown back at them, and I've walked on up my deer stand and sat down, and then 10 minutes later they're right back. I shot a buck with a bow like that once. It was pretty cool. Had to chase him. I don't even think I recovered him. It was a bad shot, but I got shot. So hunting, remember, is not killing all the time. So anyway, let's see here. So that's the wheeze right there, or the blowing. Even like I said, in a tree, on the ground, that's a good tool for you. If they're not blowing at you, I wouldn't do it. Again, that means I've seen something that is danger. I don't like it. I am letting other deer know that it's there, and I'm showing that I don't like it. And I'm telling you as a predator, I don't like you, right? So I wouldn't just use that call. That's kind of one of those things that you once you've been busted, okay? But again, it will work. I'm not going to say it works 100% of the time, but I have got a lot of deer racks. I've got a big bucket full of them. I'll add a picture of it. And it's because I understand deer. Okay, the next thing. There are a lot of different grunts, okay? There's a challenge grunt. That's way too loud. If you do that, then the deer won't come into you. They will run away. It's a challenge grunt. That is, I'm a buck, got my horns, you're in my territory, the women around here be mine, and I'm going to fight you. So he's challenging another deer. I've had this work on occasion. I've had this work pre-rut, like right before it starts, and right at the beginning. But it's pretty rare. Sometimes other deer will come in. And so typically what I'm saying is I've seen a buck, or I'm trying to call a buck in, right? And so that buck may think he's being challenged, or maybe it's like a schoolyard fight. So you do that challenge, and then you can or cannot use a rattle bag. My rattle bag is a sock and some wooden dowels of various sizes I have cut up. You can buy the fake horns if you want. They get a little bit better sound, and the wood dowels do a pretty good job of that, but it's the deer smack horns, they're fighting, and all the does are like, ooh, somebody be fighting. So they, all the deer will come in theory, and watch. And then you can kind of sit there and rattle it, right? It's like those deer are locked, like their horns are locked together. So they're in a fight, right? You can use those in combination. I've had this work, like I said, a very few times. I've rattled in one buck with this. It was a little 4-point, and it was some years ago. Actually, I don't even really carry this anymore. I made this many years ago. And, some people may have better luck with it than I do. But again, I just haven't had a whole lot of luck with it. And I'm doing it the right way, I think. Again, I brought a deer up, and that was cool. But it wasn't as consistent as I can do with this. And I haven't told you that call yet. So the challenge grunt will work occasionally. Again, the rattle bag's kind of cool. I've done the challenge grunt and had a deer or two come up. Nothing super impressive that I was like, oh boy, I want to shoot it. So play around with it. I mean, that's really what's going to help you, is you can kind of work with those two calls in conjunction or solo and see how they're working for you. Excuse me. All right. So there are presence grunts, and here you got to learn the woods. Okay, my dad and his hunting partner always told me that they heard grunts all the time. I don't hear a whole lot of grunts. I hear a lot of woodpeckers. I think a lot of times people don't understand the difference, because there are some grunts out there. Now, they wouldn't be doing it in that cadence, but if you hear that in the woods, you're sitting out there and you hear that's what I call a presence grunt. I'm here in the woods. I'm bad. Right? I've heard that very few times in my life. Most of the times what you're hearing is a woodpecker that's hitting on a tree, and it's really loud, but it doesn't sound like a woodpecker. It sounds more like a grunt, but it's not. Don't be confused. I'm not saying it's not a deer, but most deer are a prey animal. They're not a predator, and they're not all the time trying to make themselves presence known. It's pretty rare that they're verbally communicating, right? It's when they've seen a predator or there's something they don't like we talked about with the blowing, right? So if you're going to use that call and say, hey, I'm a deer, I'm in there, that's cool. I have never, ever had a deer come to me with that call. And I've tried it a lot. And my dad hasn't, and the guy that he grew up, has grown up hunting with over the years hasn't, and they said, man, grunt calls don't work. Not true. It's because they don't use them right. And I preach the gospel of this. People will listen to me. Okay, so now here's the big secret to bringing in deer. Again, I want to preface this. This will work at the pre-rut and rut, mid-rut. So like the beginning, so pre-rut, beginning of the rut, mid-rut, and it starts to taper down as the late rut comes on. Okay? It can do a lot for you. Okay? It can bring in a herd of deer. I brought in over 25, I think it was like 26 or 27 deer directly under my stand one time. Okay? I've had does come in underneath my stand. I've had groups of does come to me, grazing and on their way. I've had many a little buck running with excitement coming towards me. And if you check out my deer reaction video, that's exactly what happened there. And he came and he saw a dead deer and he was like, what the crap is that? I had other deer coming up to me. I had 2 other little bucks come to me that day because of that call. Okay? I've had deer that are good bucks coming in. The first good buck I've ever shot. And I'll put he's up on my wall. I'll send a picture of him. Okay? A really great 9-point. And it was during muzzleloading season. And he came up out of the woods. He heard my call and he came to me. I've had them come 600-700 yards away. I'm not lying to you. I've had them come 600-700 yards away. Sometimes full dead run. A lot of times they run 50 yards. They stop, put their heads up. They're like, where is it? And then they'll keep running. And sometimes they're kind of like a little bit more wary. And I'll run again and they'll come in. And man, it is the most fun part of deer hunting is to bring in deer to you where they have no clue, right? So I've done that. This is the chasing grunt, okay? So here's what it sounds like. You can do that louder or softer. A lot of times what I'll do is I'll start out loud and I'll be blowing in a direction that I want deer to hear. I don't know if that helps or not, but just kind of like make it sound like, hey, it's loud, he's chasing. Oh, hey, look, the sound's coming from a different direction. It sounds like he's going off, right? So that's what I do. I brought in a lot of deer. That's all I can tell you. And I will say that this is the most effective deer call that I've ever experienced. I've heard this in the wild one time, and I've been hunting since I was 12. Most actively, I started hunting because I did, throughout my teenage years a little bit with my dad, but most actively started at 22, I think. I was in college, and a good friend of mine wanted to go, and so he kind of turned me back onto that. So the past 14 years, I've been heavily into hunting. Okay? And I'm talking about being out there. A lot of times when I was in college, I would skip school a lot and just go hunting. Go after school. I mean, I was hunting a lot. And I still hunt a lot. Much to the chagrin of my wife. But I like it too, and I get to eat. At least it's a productive hobby. But I heard this in the stand one time, and he did it about 6 or 7 times when he was in a full-on chase. And I said, oh, I know what that is. And ever since then, I've started doing that, and I brought in a ton of deer. It's not. I'm not going to say it's going to work every time. It's not. But it works a hell of a lot. And it works many, many times to bring in deer when you're seeing nothing and bringing them in from hundreds of yards away to you. You will have more success. You will bring in does. You will bring in bucks. You will make deer feel comfortable around you. Okay? It's what it is. It's the deer talking. Okay? It's like deer whisper. Okay? So if you want to be a deer whisperer, get a grunt call and do that call. When I'm up in the stand, I will do this call maybe every half hour, depending on what I've seen. Now, if I've shot a deer, may not do it, might. It just kind of depends on what I'm doing, you know? Like maybe I've shot a deer, but I want to go kill some does too, and I want other deer in the area. Maybe I haven't seen any deer, and I want to bring something to me. Maybe I see deer in the distance, and I want them to think that there's deer up here. During a chase, kind of towards the later end of the season when the does are really in heat, those bigger bucks, they won't respond to this as well. You'll need to do it pre-rut, beginning of rut. The effectiveness will go down. So like here where I'm hunting in West Tennessee, we're talking about the start of muzzleloader season, typically the beginning of November, maybe the end of bow season, depends on the weather. Weather puts the deer in a rut, okay? Cold, it's when around that time is when it starts, okay? So those colder mornings really start spurring that on. Into the beginning of rifle season through the end of November into early December. You got a good month, maybe a month and a half, just depends on the year. Towards the end of December, it really starts lowering its effectiveness really hard. Does will come in, which is great because you're still a deer in the area, right? They're still hearing you as a deer. It's just those older bucks have already done their breeding. A lot of those older does have already gone into heat, and if a deer is on a doe, you ain't pulling that sucker off. I promise. I've tried many a time. They're not going to do it. You're not even going to slow them down most of the time. So just keep that in mind. If they're running, you might holler at them and stop the doe. You know, you might say mer, 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 or ho, or something like that with a doe on the run. If they're not sure what that is, sometimes they'll stop and look, and it'll give you the time to shoot it. But I don't know. It's hunting, man. Doesn't always work. Okay. I hope you've enjoyed this secret. This is my secret to deer hunting, and this is how I do it. So hopefully this has helped you to put meat on your table and provide for your family. So give it a try. I don't care what grunt call you use. I've been using Primos stuff. Primos seems like a cool company. Will Primos seems like a cool guy. You know, I like a lot of his stuff, but this is the gold, man. Getting in a grunt call, whichever kind you're going to use. So go kill yourself some deer. Let me know how it works for you. If you got problems, you know, just leave me a comment, send me, you know, an email, hit me up on Float or MeWe, and I'll do the best I can to answer those questions for you, you know, out there. And so happy hunting and be uncivilized.